If you enjoy watching the show Euphoria, you may have noticed this cute blanket during the scenes at Fezgo's apartment. But even if you've never seen the show before, this is a pretty pattern with a vintage vibe that's super easy to make, even if you're fairly new to crocheting. Hi, my name is Roz, and in today's video, I'm going to share step-by-step everything you need to know to make this blanket. This pattern is broken down into 3 steps: the square, the flower, and then how to join everything together. But first, I do want to talk to you about the yarn and sizing, and then we'll jump straight into the pattern. For this pattern, I'm going to be using black, white, and red in a worsted weight yarn. That's a medium weight or 4 with a 5mm hook. So if you want to work with a different brand, or if you're shopping somewhere else, these are the numbers that you want to look for. If you're wondering how much yarn you need to buy, I went ahead and did some measurements for a 3x4 foot blanket and a 4x5 foot blanket. I have added a lot of detailed information below the video in the description box, so if you check that out, you should be able to find what you need. If you're really comfortable with making granny squares, you can go ahead and just do this on your own. It's 5 rounds of white and then 1 round of black, giving you 6 rounds total. To get started, we're going to put a slip knot on our hook, wrap the yarn around your fingers, poke your hook through, pull the yarn through, and tighten. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to form a circle by doing a slip knot in the very first chain at the bottom. Go in, yarn over, pull the yarn through, and pull it through again. We're ready for round 1, and I'm going to be referring to these groups of double crochets as granny clusters. That just means that we're going to be making 3 double crochets. But to start that, we want to chain up 3. That's going to serve as our very first double crochet. Now we want to do 2 double crochets within this circle. Yarn over, going into the center, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, let's do that one more time. Yarn over, going into the center, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's your 3rd double crochet. Next, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do it again. We're going to make another granny cluster. That's 3 double crochets. Yarn over, going into the center, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. That's 1. Let's go ahead and do 2 more. Okay, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Time for another cluster, 3 double crochets right into the center. Okay, we're nearly there. Chain 3 more. Scoot things around, give yourself some space. Another granny cluster, 3 double crochets. To finish this round, we need to chain 3 more. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to slip stitch to finish, working into the top of the first chain 3 that you made. 1, 2, 3. Go in, yarn over, pull it through to slip stitch. And now on to round 2. Chain 1 and turn. Now these chain 3 spaces serve as corners, so whenever we come to a chain 3 space like this, we're going to create another corner. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to get into this space by doing a slip stitch. And now we're going to chain 3. That serves as our first double crochet for our first granny cluster. So do 2 more double crochets. Okay. Now we're forming our corner again, so we're going to chain 3. And in that same space, do another cluster, 3 doubles. 1, 2, and 3. We want to do this in each of these chain 3 spaces, but to get over to it, let's chain 1 and then continue. So 3 doubles into that next chain 3 space. Chain 3. And in that same space, make 3 more double crochets. Chain 1. After you've done your chain 1, repeat the sequence in these next 2 chain 3 spaces, and I will see you at the end of the round. Okay, we just finished our last corner space. We need to finish off, so we're going to chain 1. And now going into the top of that first chain 3, we're going to do a slip stitch to close. We're ready for round 3. Chain 1 and turn. Now we have corner spaces and side spaces. So when we come to the side spaces, we're going to do 1 granny cluster, that's 3 double crochets. And then in the corners again, we're going to repeat the same sequence. 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets. Slip stitch into that space, chain 3. That serves as your first double crochet. Now 2 more double crochets to make that cluster. Chain 1 to get over to that corner. Repeat the sequence, 3 doubles, chain 3, 3 doubles. Chain 1, that brings you over to the next gap, and as you can see, it's a side space, so you only need to do 1 granny cluster. So that's 3 doubles. Chain 1 to get over to the next corner. And when we do a corner, you know the drill. We're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets. Now you're just going to continue this sequence all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end. We've reached the end of the round. I did the final corner of clusters. I have 1 chain 1 to do to get me to the first one I started with. And now I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that first chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Going in, slip stitch, and done. So we've just completed the 3rd round, 1, 2, 3. You're just going to repeat this process until you've done 5 rounds of white. Okay, we've finished all 5 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did my slip stitch into the top of that chain 3, and now I'm going to fasten off to get ready for round 6, which is the black. So I just go ahead and snip the yarn. Okay, I take the tail and I just put it through the loop there to tighten and make a little knot. To fasten on, I usually like to start on a side area rather than the corners. It just makes a neater edge later on. So I'm just going to go into one of these spaces on the side, going in, pulling the yarn through, create a slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then just continue on as you were before, just making your 3 double crochets on the sides, chain 1 in between, and then your corner clusters in the corners. For the flowers, we're going to be working double crochets for the center and then treble crochets for the petals. So let's put our slip knot on our hook. We're going to start with our centers. Chain 4. We're going to create a slip stitch into the very first chain that we started with there to create a circle. Just pull the yarn through, and now we have our circle. To begin, we're going to chain 3 to serve as our first double crochet, plus a chain 1 that's going to serve as our first space. So chain 4 total. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to work back into the center with our first double crochet. Pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Chain 1, double crochet. Chain 1, double crochet. Just continue doing this until you've done 8 double crochets. We've done 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. Chain 1, double crochet. Double check that you have 8 double crochets. Remember to count that first chain 3 as one of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. Chain 1 more. And now we're going to slip stitch to form our circle here. 1, 2, 3. And pull through to slip stitch. Go ahead and fasten off. And now we're ready for the petals. You can skip over this bit if you want, but I want to explain what we're going to do before we do it here. We're going to be forming the petals with treble crochets, but when we do the treble crochets, we're going to do a stitch called treble crochets together. That just means that we're going to combine them together instead of doing each one individually. This will give the really pretty edge that you see here. Okay, so we're going to add a slip knot to our hook. And we're going to start our first treble crochet with a chain 4. So go into any space that you like, go in, pull through to form a slip stitch, hold it in place. Now chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Okay, so that's our first treble crochet. Now we're going to do 4 more together. So to do 4 of them together, we're going to wrap the yarn around our hook 2 times. We're going to go back into the space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and now you have 2 loops on your hook and you're going to stop. Normally you would do another yarn over to finish the stitch. Don't do that, just stick to it like that. Let's repeat the process. Yarn over twice, going into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. You have 3 loops on your hook. We're going to do 2 more. When you're finished, you want to see 5 bands here, 5 posts. Okay, let's do it again. Yarn over twice, going in, yarning over, pulling through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, grab that real quick, there we go. And now we have 4 loops on our hook and 4 posts. Let's do it one more time. Going in, pull it through, pull through 2, pull through 2. Okay, great. So now we have our 5 posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At this point, yarn over and pull the yarn through all of your loops. Now what we're going to do to finish this petal is we're going to do another chain 4 to serve as the very last post for your petal, or the last treble crochet for your petal. Yarn over, pull through. That's 1 chain, 2, 3, and 4. Now working into that very same space, bring that down and do a slip stitch. Okay, and now you can see how it has puffed to the back here. It's formed your petal for you. We're going to go into the next space and repeat all of that again. So going into the next space, create a slip stitch, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you're just going to continue on all the way around. You can just back up and keep watching that segment there. I'm just going to go in and do this in each gap all the way around. Okay, I've reached the end and I'm down to that very last chain 4. I'm going to do the slip stitch to form that petal. And I'm just going to go ahead and go into that very first petal with another slip stitch. There we go. And we're going to call that good. Okay, I'm going to thread that yarn through that center there. Give it a nice tug. Okay, so at this point you do have a choice. You can leave it as is, but you're going to have those bands. If you don't mind those bands of red, you're finished. But what I'm going to do is, I don't like it, so I'm going to just pop these to the front. And I actually prefer the look of the stitches too, because now we can see those really pretty treble crochets. And now you're ready to attach. To attach your flower to your square, I have a couple of guidelines that really helped me with this. First one is we're focusing on centering the flower within the round 3. You want to see the edge of round 3 around your flower. And then once I've done that, then I like to use the clusters around to center the petals above them. So what I mean by this is this petal is within these 2 clusters. The middle petal here is with this middle cluster. And the reason I do that is because it's easier to attach the petals. Now this isn't a rule that you have to abide by. You can attach this any way you like. I just want to show you how I went about it. Now I just have a stretch of yarn with my tapestry needle. If you like the look of this, this is called a Susan Bates finishing needle. I'll leave a link in the description box below, but any tapestry needle will do. I'm just going to go in from behind. My goal is just to attach as neatly and inconspicuously as possible. And you can do this a number of ways. You can go in and out between these little bands or bars, or you can go straight through the center. I'm going to try that with this one and see how that looks. Just pulling. I'm using that little center from the square beneath as my guide. And then once I'm finished, I just tie the 2 sides together. double knot, and then just weave those ends in. And you can stop there if you like. You don't necessarily have to attach these petals. This is going to stay in place for you, and it's pretty cute just like that. But if you do want to attach, what I like to do is just go into the meat of these clusters and just kind of attach sort of midway here, so we're not going to interfere with this really pretty petal piece. Here's one that I did do the attaching of the petals, and as you can see, it's just there, just in the middle portions. Just pulling them in. I'm going to be using a join as you go technique for this, but I will be sure to share some other options for joining at the end of the video. To do the join as you go method, you want to complete one square fully. That means doing all 6 rounds. My biggest tip before you get started on connecting is to join as soon as you can. With a square like this where you have plenty of sides in case you forget to join, that's not a big deal. But once you get to where you need to connect 2 or 3 sides, remembering when to connect gets a little bit more tricky. So I found that it's just easiest to always do that first connecting as soon as possible. So I'm adding my slip knot onto my hook as normal. And now I'm going to start on this side because I want to get to this corner to attach to this corner. I'm just fastening on with a slip stitch, chain 3, and do my first cluster. Okay, so I'm at my corner now. I'm going to remember to do the chain 1 after that cluster. And what I want to do here is I want to start my corner as normal, but then when I'm halfway through with it, when I get to the chain 3, I'm going to attach to this corner. So I'm going to do the chains the same, except I'm going to replace one of those chains with a slip stitch to connect. So it's going to be cluster, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, cluster. Let's do this together. So I'm doing my first cluster. 2, 3. Okay, so normally I would do a chain 3, so I'm going to do one of those. For the second one, I'm going to replace it with a slip stitch into this corresponding corner. I just go into that corner, pull the yarn through, and slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain 1. That'll be like my chain 3. And then coming back into this same corner, I'm going to finish that second cluster for the corner. Okay, so we've just attached our first corner. So typically now we do a chain 1, right? But what we're going to do instead is we're going to replace the chain 1s with slip stitches into these spaces right above in the corresponding spaces. So instead of chain 1, I'm going to slip stitch into that space to attach. Now if you want to, you can still do the chain 1. If you're feeling like everything's too tight, that's totally fine. It really does depend on your yarn. I'm not going to worry about doing a chain 1 at this point. I think I'm okay. But if it's too tight, I will go back and do a chain 1. But the main point here is just to remember that you're replacing your chain 1s with a slip stitch. Okay. So after that slip stitch, I went in and did my cluster to match and correspond with the opposite one here. And now instead of a chain 1, I'm going into that space to slip stitch and attach. And then coming back to this space with our cluster. And now it's time to finish this corner over here. So we're doing the same thing. We've done our chain or our slip stitch like normal. We're going to start half of this corner. So that's 3 double crochets. And remember in the corners we have chain 3, so we're going to do 1 chain. Replace the second chain with a slip stitch, and attach to that corner above us. Do one more chain for the third. And now we're going to finish our corner with the other cluster. So that's 3 more doubles in that same corner. Great. So that's all there is to attaching that first side. And now you're just going to complete the rest of the round as normal. And now we're getting ready to do the third square. And this is really simple. We're just going to attach the same way we did with the second square. I'm going to start here on the side and attach as soon as possible. But I do want to show you how to handle this intersection. So I'm going to start here. I'll probably just fast forward through to this corner and I'll see you back over here. So I've connected all the way across. I'm coming very close to my corner. I'm going to attach. These are mirroring each other. So I'm going to attach with a slip stitch here. And I'm going to start my corner like normal. 3 double crochets. There are a number of ways that you can attach your corners here or this intersection, but for me personally what I've found works the best is just to attach to the opposite corner. So this square is going to attach to this square, and then when I come in and I do my fourth one, I'm going to do the same thing. My corner here is going to attach to this opposite corner here. Now I do have 3 chains again, so I'm going to utilize them. I'm going to do the 1, chain 1, slip stitch in the opposite corner, chain 1 again. Those are my 3 chains. And now continue with my 3 double crochets to finish that corner. 2 and 3. Okay. That's all we're doing for this. Now we're just going to continue on completing our square just as normal. Okay, so we have 3 joined and now it's time to do the 4th one. I'm going to shift this around just to make it a little bit easier. Now we have 2 sides that we need to join, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to start on this side over here and join as soon as possible because I have a really bad habit of forgetting where I left off and I forget to join and I finish the round. So this is what I found helps me the most. So I'm going to start here and I will meet you at this intersection. Okay, we've come to our corner or our little intersection here, and I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to work the corner, but I'm going to attach on the diagonal to the one right opposite on this diagonal line here. So first, my 3 doubles. I have 3 chains I can work with, so I'm going to chain 1. And going over to the corresponding corner on the diagonal, I'm going to go in there to slip stitch. Okay, and chain 1. I'll try to zoom in here so you can see this. It just gives a really nice crisscross join here, very secure. And to finish this corner, 1 more set of double crochets. Okay. And as always, instead of a chain 1, I'm going to use it to slip stitch in the space above me. And we're back on track. Just continue joining like we've been. And that's all there is to it. If you're wondering about a border for this, I don't think a border is necessary. I think this is a really lovely finish to your blanket already.